It wasn't that long ago that the idea of putting Bitcoin on a corporate balance sheet was, well, it was basically unthinkable. And that was stuff for rebels, right? Not for shareholders. But today, wow, that is all changing. Public companies are pouring billions into crypto. But here's the thing. They're not just wandering into the Wild West. A whole new wave of global regulation is taming that frontier. And we're going to break down exactly how.
And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, as of late 2024, public companies were holding $148 billion in crypto. I mean, this isn't just dipping a toe in the water. This is a full-on strategic dive into the deep end of digital assets.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question. We all know crypto can be incredibly volatile. So why on earth are these traditionally risk-averse companies rushing in now? What's their game plan? What are the real dangers they're facing? And how are regulators even trying to bring some order to this whole new financial world?
All right, so before we can really get into the corporate playbook, we have to understand the game they're playing. For years, crypto has been this unregulated frontier, and that comes with a very particular set of dangers. One of the biggest headaches for any financial regulator is something called market abuse. In traditional markets, you've got decades of rules to stop things like insider trading, but the way crypto markets are built makes them especially vulnerable, and tackling this has become a huge priority for regulators.
So this unregulated frontier really has four key challenges. First off, you've got fragmented markets. This means the price of a crypto asset can be completely different depending on which exchange you're looking at. Second, the whole world of decentralized finance, or DeFi, brings a ton of new cybersecurity risks and, funnily enough, a lot of control is still held by just a few big players. And finally, the anonymous side of many transactions makes it incredibly hard to apply the standard anti-money laundering rules that you see everywhere else in finance.
So, in response to all those risks, what we're seeing now is this massive, coordinated global push to regulate the crypto space, and I mean global. This isn't just one country doing its own thing, it's a worldwide movement. And it all starts with getting a handle on the tech itself.
See, to regulate crypto, you have to know how it actually works. Most cryptocurrencies run on one of two systems. Bitcoin uses proof of work, which is kind of like a race where miners use a crazy amount of computing power to solve a puzzle and validate transactions. But Ethereum's proof of stake is different. It's less about raw power and more about collateral. Validators lock up their own crypto for the chance to validate transactions. Getting that distinction is absolutely key for regulators.
So how much control do regulators already have? Well, forget that old idea of anything goes. In 71% of regulated jurisdictions, a crypto asset can't even be listed for trading until a regulator gives it the green light. They are the new gatekeepers of this digital frontier.
And this isn't happening in a vacuum. It's everywhere all at once. You've got the EU's huge MiCAR regulation, a new US-UK task force, laws being drafted down in Australia. The message couldn't be clearer. Global bodies are making sure no country gets left behind because they all get that in a borderless digital world, uncoordinated rules are basically no rules at all.
But here's the interesting part. Regulators know they can't just use old dusty tools for this brand new technology. So they're getting creative. And one of the most important new tools in their arsenal is something called a regulatory sandbox.
Because this is the fundamental dilemma they're facing, right? How do you regulate a revolution without accidentally stopping it in its tracks? If you're too harsh, you kill innovation. Too lenient, and you risk a total catastrophe. It's a seriously high-stakes tightrope walk.
And the solution is the sandbox. Think of it like a controlled live testing environment. A FinTech company can launch a new, maybe even a rule-breaking product to a limited number of real people while the regulator watches over their shoulder. It lets them make rules based on actual evidence instead of just guessing what might happen.
But regulators don't just hand out passes to the sandbox to anyone. They follow a really clear logic. First, they ask, does this new thing actually benefit people? If it does, hey, can we just tweak an existing rule to make it work? And only if the answer to that is no, do they move to the final step. Is a live test with real customers the only way to truly understand the risks? It's a really methodical process for dealing with some pretty radical ideas.
Okay, so with regulators building this new structured environment, corporations are now developing their own playbook for how to operate inside it. This is the point where crypto stops being a fringe idea and starts becoming a real part of corporate strategy.
In fact, of course, there's a new acronym for this trend.
DATCOs, which stands for Digital Asset Treasury Companies. These are public firms that are strategically adding digital assets to their balance sheets, maybe to hedge against inflation, maybe to create new liquidity, or maybe just to be seen as a leader in technology.
And making a move like this, well, it's not an impulse buy. Boards of directors have to wrestle with this massive checklist, covering everything from high-level strategy down to the nitty-gritty of who exactly holds the digital keys. This forces a company to build entirely new muscles in cybersecurity, in auditing, and, most importantly, in explaining this complex new strategy to their investors.
And then you get to the surprisingly tricky part, the accounting. You can't just write Bitcoin on your balance sheet. Think of it like water. Is the water for drinking, for filling a swimming pool, or for generating electricity? How you plan to use it changes what it fundamentally is. It's the same for a crypto asset. Is it a long-term investment, like a patent? Is it inventory that you plan to sell, like a car dealership? Or is it something else entirely? Getting this wrong can have some pretty serious financial and legal consequences.
So, where does all of this leave us? We're in this period of what you could call an uneasy truce. It's a moment of real tension, but also incredible potential as these two different worlds, decentralized finance and traditional corporate structure, are learning how to coexist.
And honestly, nothing captures this shift better than this quote from the governor of the Bank of England. Just a few years ago, a central banker saying something like this would have been absolutely unthinkable. Today, they're openly admitting that digital assets like stablecoins could drive real innovation. That is a massive change in tone.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? It's a collision of cultures. The rebellious, move fast and break things spirit of early crypto is slamming right into the methodical, cautious, risk-averse world of corporate governance and global finance.
Which leaves us with one final big question to think about. Is all of this new structure and oversight the death of what made crypto so revolutionary in the first place? Or is it the very thing it needed all along to finally unlock its true potential and bring it to the masses? The answer to that is probably going to define the future of finance.